All right. We are live. Give me a minute or two here to get myself situated. And we will begin our stream today. I'm going to get myself going on Amazon here too. And what we're looking at today is another mini PC. This is the Beelink. Let me get Amazon live here, and then we'll continue. So let us go live on Amazon, and we'll get the show on the road. And we're almost there. Yeah, so this is a Ryzen-based mini PC, and it is running with a 4800U processor, and it should be pretty good in the performance area because of that. But we got to wait a second for this Amazon thing to start working. So what I might do actually in the interim here is just start and stop the Amazon. It looks like it just didn't jive. All right, let's try that again. See what happens here. There we go. Okay, so we'll get going in a second. So yeah, this is a mini PC that Beelink sent to the channel. There we go. Free of charge, in full disclosure. And there we go. We are up on Amazon now. Yeah, so I think this one's going to perform pretty nicely. I haven't taken it out of the box yet, as you can see. It still has the shrink wrap on it. So we will be doing this afternoon. And I got some friends to say hello to, including my friend William Wilkinson, Recipe Bob, Michael Kidd from Las Vegas. Patrick Chang is here. Tech Time with Eric. He's not going to be here long. He's waiting for paint to dry. Sometimes watching my live stream is like waiting for paint to dry. Because, you know, it's not always the most interesting stuff, depending on what it is. But, oops, I just turned this thing off here. Hang on a second. There we go. And I got a few more. Austin is here early this time. David Langley is here. Hello there. RC This is asking, is this thing good? We're going to find out. And Tech360 Gamer is here as well. Yeah, we're going to find out how good it is in a second or two. We're going to unbox it. And bear with me here. I'm just getting a few things situated on my screen. And then we will commence the unboxing. And the other thing I'm going to do when we unbox it is we're going to take it apart and see what it looks like inside. This thing actually has pretty good specifications out of the gate. It has 32 gigs of RAM and a 500 gigabyte hard drive. NVMe, no less, but no Thunderbolts and no USB 4. We haven't seen that, at least I haven't, on an AMD-based device just yet. But we will in the near future. All right, so let me open it up here and we'll see what is inside, and then we'll take it apart and see how we can upgrade it. All right, so we'll get the plastic wrap off of here. And in full disclosure, once again, Beelink sent this to the channel free of charge for us to look at. But I know you all like mini PCs, just like Tech360 Gamer likes the mini PCs. And Patrick asks a good question here. How do I decide what to review next? And you know, it varies based on the week. A lot of times I got to have something to review. So there's some weeks where I'm like short on stuff. I try to do like one laptop review a week. I try not to like load up in any one area too much. So we have a laptop review going up tomorrow that I shot last week. And I might do this one next just because we're starting it as far as the evaluation process is concerned right now. So I might just record this one tomorrow or Friday if I get everything done. Oops, get everything done ahead of time here. So there's some warnings here. It says, due to the high performance and high power consumption of the PC, the self-checking fan is specially designed in order to ensure the effectiveness of heat dissipation. The fan rotates at full speed 5 seconds before the cold start. After this time, the noise is normal. Please rest assured. They want to let you know that it's gonna whir like crazy when you first power it on, and then after that it's gonna cool off. But here is the port layout. So you've got a USB-C here in the front. This, I believe, is a full service port. So I think it does power and it does video output. So you have 3 video outputs. You've got the 2 HDMIs on the back and then this one on the front. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that one of these ports does not do 60 hertz 4K. That usually is the case. Let me see if I can go through the technical specs, if there are any on here. Yeah, there's no specs on this, but we'll look it up. I'm pretty sure that, I know that it does 3 outputs, but I think one of them doesn't go to the full 60. And if you click on the Amazon link, you can get the price. There's a couple of different configurations. This one, as configured, is a little on the pricier side. It's like $750 right now. It does have a, I'll show you the box here as we unbox everything. It does have a VESA mount, so you can mount it on the back of a monitor if you want. And we also get some screws here for, I'm assuming, the mounting, and an HDMI cable. It's always good when you get the HDMI cable in the box. Power supply, standard barrel power supply here. So you have a big wall wart, actually. It is, how many watts is this? 19 volts, 3 amps. So we're going to have to do the calculation on this. 19 volts, 3 amps in watts. What is that, like 60 maybe? Let's see. So 3 amps, 19 volts, 57 watts. That's a weird number. Yeah, 19 volts, 3 amps, 57 watts. All right, so let's get this thing taken apart, actually. We're going to take it apart first. So it looks like the bottom plate here is what screws off. So let me get my handy-dandy screwdriver set out here. This is my Oriya precision screw set. So we're going to just take it apart. Usually you can't get at the processors on these unless you really dig into it. And there's no reason to, because you can't upgrade the processor, but the RAM and the storage is upgradable. However, this one, as configured, at least insofar as the RAM is concerned, is fully decked out. So this has 32 gigs of memory on it already. So we'll see what we've got for specs on this one. All right. And Jan says, yeah, I think that's going to be really interesting when we start seeing some of that those things make their way out of here. I am eager to see that. I'm waiting still for my invitation to buy my Steam Deck. I am dying for a Steam Deck, because everybody is getting one except me. I'm willing to pay for it, of course, but I have not yet seen mine. And I got a few other friends popping in here. We have Doug M. from west of Ireland. Hello there. The Brand Tech is here. And Michael says, small package, big power. Yeah, it is. It should have that. We'll see. I'm pretty sure it will do that. And Sketty Eddie says 57 watts might be tolerance for a 48-watt load. And Screen Playhouse has the, hello there, long time no see, has the SIR 3. This is the SIR 4. So this one's a little bit newer, and I just lost a screw into my, it actually, there it is, it fell into my keyboard. I didn't get my magnetic screw holder out, so I'm going to have to be very careful that I don't lose these screws as we go here. Yeah, so today's kind of a chill day. I'm actually ahead of the game on production, so I figured I would do a little stream here where we just take this little mini PC apart and see what's inside, and then we'll boot it up and get it updated, and then run a couple of benchmarks on it, maybe a game or two depending on time, and we'll see how we do. So So I'm just trying to figure out, I purposely did not read any instructions as to how to get into this thing, but I might need a little spudger to coax it. So let's see if we can get this little spudger in somewhere to move everything out of the way. So I'm guessing that's how it comes apart, right? It doesn't slide out. There's no way for it to slide out. Social Gamer says $750. Yes, that is what this one goes for, although it's pretty spec'd out. And I'm surprised they didn't offer a lower spec version. I think there might be one with a lower spec. Let me check that real quick, because that might, let's take a look. I'm just going to click through on my own link just to see. So there is one with 16 gigs that goes for $699. So these are not inexpensive. But I think as far as mini PCs go, this is going to be kind of like top of the line. I just can't figure out how to get into this just yet, because it is, the tolerances on this metal case are quite are quite good. Usually you can get your spudger in somewhere and just kind of pull it apart, but we unscrewed everything, but it is just not coming apart just yet, which is good. Makes it so you can't, it's a pretty high quality case. The case is actually made out of metal, so it's not like a cheap plastic. And Michael says, when you're in doubt, spudge it out. And Screen has been watching. So thank you for always watching. I appreciate that. All right, let's see here. So did anyone watch my video on podcasting? I was kind of, it was interesting because I always knew how podcasting worked, but when you really stop to think about it, the way podcasts work these days is exactly the same they did at the beginning. Like, it hasn't changed and nobody controls it. I thought that was an interesting thing. Oh, okay, so let's take a look here and see if they offer us any ways to open this stupid thing up. So it looks like, I'm just looking on the thing here. It looks as though you get at the memory from the top, is what it looks like to me. I'm just looking through the manual here. So DDR memory installation is shown. And it doesn't actually tell you how to get into the case, other than, actually no, it looks like it's the bottom, because those are the screws, the visible screws there. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of getting the spudger in between here. Yeah, they do not make this thing easy to lift out. I'm thinking maybe I can grab it on the, by the foot here and kind of coax it out that way. Yeah, it just comes up. So that is, it's funny, like it is so, it's all unscrewed, but the rubber foot, even like pulling on the rubber foot, it just draws the adhesive off. You can't actually get, get into it. And so here's a good suggestion from Michael. Put a screw in the hole and slightly tilt it so it binds into the bottom plate. That's a good idea. Let's try that. So give it just a little bit of a nudge there. If we can screw it in just slightly, maybe use that to kind of wedge it up. Yeah, it's not going. I guess I could probably try to get the flathead. The good news is I know what it looks like when we get in there, but it's just getting into it is going to be the, nope, I didn't get it in far enough. Getting into it is going to be the challenge here. You know what I'm going to try, actually? I'm going to try a smaller screw here and see if that might get us in there a little bit easier. Yeah, I'm just like chewing up the metal now. Let me try one more thing. Does it slide forward? No, so it doesn't slide forward with any pressure because it's like a fully this is like a completely perfect rounded piece of metal. And the bottom plate is metal also, so there's no flex to it, which is a good thing from a build quality standpoint. But you tear it up trying to get it open. So that's the only downside with it. But I've got an idea here. Let me grab one of these little or smaller flatheads and see if I can use that to, yeah, I can hear it like grinding away in there. Try to get on the corner here maybe. No, it is just sealed up tight. I mean, it is like, you got to appreciate the tolerances here. It's almost like it's welded together. So I can't even get even a little bit of an angle because it's just so, it is so tight. And because it's all metal, like there's no flex to it. So I can't even get my spudger in here to get it moving, even on the corner. It's that tight. But you know what? It's not bad from a build quality standpoint. It's just, and I think this metal plate just comes off is what it appears to look like. Oh, Michael said, oh, it has 2 mount holes. Find the screws for the mount holes. Oh, okay, that's a good idea. It's right here. Let's try that. So Michael Kidd is giving me some good ideas here as to how to get into this thing. So let's try to use that as some leverage. Yeah, it's not moving. Actually, just bent my screw. The screw just bent. Well, I hope I never have to use, you should see this, it actually bent it. Yeah, so I'm afraid to use any more screws on this thing because it's going to bend those too. This is not bad, but wow, this thing is not coming apart. So we could try one more, maybe a little stronger one that fits in the hole there. That was a little too big. But anything too small here, this screw set has very, very soft metal. So it is prone to bending, but wow. There we go. Okay, we got it now. That is a lot of effort. And, oh, just fell back in. There we go. Got it. So Michael Kidd, you get the award here. Okay. So there we go. So I'm going to have to get a new whatever that was that I bent. Hopefully, like I said, I don't think I've ever used that one before, so we're good. Okay. And I'm just going to record some B-roll of the insides. And it looks like it's got, oh, okay, there's a, well, it's kind of nice. All right, so here's what you got. Let me do this. And the nice thing, everything is hooked up here, too. So let's do a little B-roll footage here. So we've got a 2.5-inch SATA hard drive connector here. It's empty, of course, but you can slide a drive in. It is already connected to the motherboard, so you have that, plus you have the NVMe drive here. And the components are really good on this. I think it's worth noting this. There's an Intel SSD 660p, 500 gigabytes, and you have crucial memory. These are DDR4 3200 modules. But this is name brand components on this thing, not cheap stuff. So that is very nice to see. The Wi-Fi card is underneath the SSD. So they packed it in pretty tight here, but it all is there. Very cool. I do not know what the Wi-Fi is on this, but I suspect that if we've got an Intel SSD, we likely have probably an Intel Wi-Fi card. But we will find out more as we work our way into this thing. But wow, is that thing hard to get into, huh? And now it's like not snapping back in. There it goes. Okay, so we're going to screw it back together, and then we'll go on from there. But yeah, good stuff. All right, so let me get my screwdriver back out here. Then we'll fire this sucker up for the first time. And yeah, well, this is typically what happens on my channel because I am the least mechanical person there is. So when you ask me to take something apart, I will undoubtedly break something. This time I broke the screwdriver. And, you know, I'm just not very talented like that. Now, it has Ethernet, as you saw, so we're going to plug it into Ethernet. And I'm going to connect this up to my Microsoft account so I get all the Game Pass stuff going, too. And we're going to put this back here. All right. What do you say that we fire this sucker up? I think that might be kind of fun. So we have the power adapter. That's the one thing I'm not crazy about is that it doesn't have, you know, it's got a wall wart and not a regular AC adapter. So it's going to take up some room on your thing. I use those, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hook it up to my kilowatt and measure the power consumption. But I have these little, I bought a bunch of these. These are like little extension cables. They're very short. But when you have like a power strip with not a lot of room on it, these can be really useful. I've got this really nice Kensington power thing under my desk here that is really nice. I don't see it for sale at the moment, which is a shame because it's a really nice power thing. So we're going to use the kilowatt here. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to see much of it. And we're going to get everything hooked up here. Must have some really good capacitor in there because that light lit up from when I plugged it in briefly and then unplugged it. The power cable is also very short. So I'm going to make a note of that also. Let me just get my Google Doc going here. All right, so this is the Beelink CR4. We've got 4800U. But I'm pleased. I mean, you're paying a lot for this, but the components hold up. They're pretty good components in there. All right, let's get this situated here. There we go. I got to plug in my video pass-through thing. And I'm a little nervous because sometimes when I activate that video pass-through, we lose the whole stream. So we'll decide if we need to do that or not. I might not, actually. We'll see. All right, so we're going to plug in Ethernet here. And I just got to grab my HDMI cable. We'll plug that in. And then we're going to use my favorite keyboard. This is my, oh, where did I put the dongle? Hang on a second. I got to get my dongle. I was using this with my NVIDIA Shield the other day for yesterday's video. Got to keep cranking it out. All right, so we're going to plug in my dongle into the back here. All right, so we're connected. I'll plug the monitor back in. And then it should boot up, and then we begin the fun process of updating the system. All right, so we're going to get that loud fan noise they said. You ready? Oh, yeah. Listen to that. But they said after 5 seconds, it'll settle down. So we'll see if that holds true. And it appears as though it is. OK, so we are booting up. You know, get in a little tighter there. And hopefully, this is a licensed version of Windows. Beelink is actually one of the, I think, more reputable brands in this space. I have seen a good amount of consistency from their product line over the years. So it might cost more than some of the no-name brands that are out there, but you will get, I think, slightly better quality. All right, just going to make a note here. Oh, it's got Windows 11. Lucky us. Let me go add another note to my thing here about the power cable. It's a bit short. All right. All right, I'm missing a whole bunch of comments here. So let me scroll forward and get some answers here. So Squidward says no hard drive. No, it has a hard drive. It's an NVMe, but you have the option to add the second one there. John Clayton wants to know, does it have Bluetooth? Yes, it's got Bluetooth and Wi-Fi on the same card there. And Michael did watch the podcast video. Awesome. Thank you, Doug M., for your kind words. Appreciate that. And One Man Show said there's always one or two. Yeah, there's always, you don't need to put them all in, right, as long as they work. Sketty Eddie said a inline transformer would be good. And Tech Time with Eric has, yeah, I've had this for a while. This is the first time I broke it, so we'll see what happens there. But this one's got a 500 gig SSD. Jolt Dude says a pretty good value proposition. Yeah, you're getting good stuff here. So you're paying a lot for it. But Chris Allegretta wants to know, how do I computer? Well, we're going to have to start a new YouTube channel for that. We'll get you there. I'm going to start with Linux and Nano. And Austin says I should dub in a jet engine as it's starting. That'd be fun. But they did warn us, right? We knew about that ahead of time. The sticker said that would be it. So you know what I'm going to do, everybody, because Mark Smith was wondering what the specs are. So I'm going to put the specs into the chat here. I'm going to pin it so you see it. So specs, Ryzen 4800U, 32 gigabyte DDR4 3200 dual channel, 512 gigabyte Intel NVMe SSD. Boom, and I'll pin that so you can all see that as we work our way through, because I'll often get people coming in and asking about that. So I will confess to not knowing what an RPoxMox server is. So I'm going to look that up. Powerful open source mail gateway. Yes, I think it could probably handle that, provided it likes Ryzen processors. You'll find that as we get through things, this one is going to be pretty quick because you've got, I think this is, I forgot how many cores these chips have. I think it's, is it quad core? Let me look up real quick, 4800U. So the Ryzen 4800U, oh, it's an 8-core. This is an 8-core Ryzen chip. So that's pretty beefy. All right, let's get some Windows 11 going. This will also, we'll test this, maybe not today. We'll see how much we get done here. But this will run Linux also. So if you are looking to do, you know, a Docker server or something like that, you know, having 8 cores in a package like this, especially for server activities, I think is really good. And it will not be good for a Plex server, though. And the reason is that these AMD Ryzens do not support, they don't support Intel QuickSync rendering. So you're not going to get that. And I heard about this. I guess, what was it? The video drivers were overclocking the passwords? Is that, or overclocking the processors? Is that what I read? All right, so now it's rebooting and that fan. So I guess that fan goes bonkers every time it reboots. Now, we just recently looked at one of their lower powered devices. And I was messing around with that one with some software-defined radio stuff, and that worked okay too. That was like a $279 one. This one is like $500 more. Now, my understanding about why these fans do this is I think it's a means of ensuring that the thermal, it's like a self-check of the thermal system. Because in a worst-case scenario, like that's going to have to go up to full speed. We'll call this the Ryzen Beelink. And we've got to work our way through this install process. I predict that we're going to have a big old update to install on this when it's done. There it goes again. You know, one thing I'm finding with the Windows 11 install process is that it's almost as though these PCs ship with just a shell and it downloads the rest of the OS before it gets going. because we've seen this now. Manatee with Hat says, so this would not be good for a streaming media server. It would be fine if you are not doing any hardware transcoding. But if you are intending to do hardware transcoding, it is not going to be good with Plex. Plex does not support the AMD video encoders. So that is something to consider. All right, we're going to set this up for personal use. I will say I've been getting deeper into the Microsoft ecosystem because of my part-time gig at the university where I teach. And, you know, it's not bad. I like the Office thing. You know, it doesn't feel better than Google. It feels like a nice alternative to it. You know what I mean? Like I don't prefer it. I don't hate it. I'm fine with either one. And that hasn't always been the case for me. So I like the Microsoft stuff. I'm just logging into my Microsoft account right now. And then we'll move on. I am paying now for Microsoft 365 because I pay for everything. Like, and I end up getting into all of it. You know, and I have that account because I test Microsoft Word and Office stuff with some of these cheaper PCs. So I just have to do it, you know. So I've got that, I've got Google, I've got Apple, I've got all this stuff. And I'm just like probably spending $300 a year on like services. Because then I have the Google because I have the private domain Google thing for the business. So there's that, and it's just, you just have to do it. But at least I can write it off, right? Because I'm not using it for personal use, only for the business. Doug wants to know, does this go to 4.2 gigahertz in boost mode? I'm assuming it supports all of the things that the Ryzen chips support. And what I've often found nice about these versus so this is like a laptop processor essentially. But what's nice about the mini PCs is that a well-designed one is not power or thermally constrained. So it has a much better airflow than a laptop would be able to have. It's a lot thicker. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, I've had laptops this thick from back in my youth, but you can imagine a laptop that thick, right? You can't make a laptop that thick anymore, but you can make a mini PC that thick. So that's something that I think is worth mentioning. We're going to only save files to this PC. And we're going to let this finish up. The other thing I noticed is that I've got 3 gigabits upstream. I can never get things to upload to OneDrive faster than maybe half a gigabit. And that's true of Google and everything else too. Yeah, so I got the family edition, and it's a long story. But the reason, I don't know why I did it. I mean, I could have done the personal one, but I have more devices than the personal one allows for, I think. There was a reason why I had to do it this way. I did buy a PC to review that had like a year of it, so that's when I started with that, and then I ended up paying for it last week. Because I had all these files up there that they were kind of holding hostage. And Michael Kidd says, it still chaps my you-know-what that I have a bunch of BS games. Yeah, I don't like all the upselling that you get, even on the Pro Edition. And Retro Gaming says they have one with a 5900HX now also. Is that on the Amazon page? I didn't see it. Let me look. Let's take a look at that. This must be a different model number. But yeah, they do pretty well. I'm beginning to really like them as, if I'm looking at brands to recommend as a mini PC brand, like Beelink is starting to get into that realm for me. It feels, the quality of the machines is better than others that I've looked at. I don't know about the long-term support. I got to look into that a little bit more as far as how their support network is, but the hardware feels really, really good quality. Just going to turn the scaling down to 200%. We are running at 4K, by the way. I believe we are. Yes, we are. And let's just make sure that we have this at... That fan is cooking, though. I bet you that the processor is probably working itself because of, yeah, the Windows updater is going. But the fan's making some noise, and we're only about 15% utilized here. Here, I'll pull, wish me luck here. Hopefully this doesn't crash my system. I'm going to bring it in so you can see what we got here. Let's close this out here real quick. And don't crash, don't crash, don't crash. Good. Okay, so there you go. And I'll give you a, I'll have a little zoom one that I can do here. So we'll take input 11, and I'll just zoom this sucker in a little bit for you. Now I got this thing I can move around a little bit. So watch this. Whoop. So I love vMix. You can do all sorts of cool stuff. All right, so we're down to 1% utilization, so that's good. And what I'm going to do now is just do a little Windows update on this thing and see if we have anything big to install on it. Oh yeah, of course we do. Would you like to see everything that has to be installed on here? Which one should we start with? These are all the important security updates. It is downloading an updated display driver, so that's probably important. And then it's got this cumulative update that it wants to do as well. So we'll let that run for a minute and see where we go. Doug wants to know, any idea of CPU temperature? Not yet. And I'm guessing the fan is as aggressive as it is because it is trying to prevent, I think it's probably trying to run at the best performance level it can. And we'll see if it will burst here up to, yeah, because now we're at 34%. And I can show our logical processors. This, by the way, has it threads also, so you get actually 16, not 16 cores, but you get like 16 threads that you can use at once. So we haven't pushed beyond 4 gigahertz yet, but I think it probably will get there. Yeah, that fan is cooking. It's only, I can hear it, and it's variable in its functioning there. As you can see, we're not really killing it either. It's not running as hard as it does when it first boots up, but it's definitely audible. More so than a laptop would be. And I don't know if the noise itself is distracting so much as it is that it is ramping up and down in conjunction with the CPU. But we are over now 4 gigahertz, so I think it is able to burst up to that level. And DL says, from what I've read, the higher number of threads are meaningless unless you're gaming. Yeah, I think it really involves, an app that is heavily multi-threaded, or an app or a combination of multiple apps running at the same time. So you'll have less slowdown if you are doing multiple things in the background. And what's important to note also is that typically, even like for video encoding relies on a different part of the hardware. Uh-oh. Hang on, I'm going to close out my NDI thing crashes my vMix occasionally when we have resolution shifts like that. So I'm being very careful about everything until it settles back down. All right, so now it is downloading the cumulative update. This is going a lot faster, though, than that cheap laptop we looked at a few weeks ago. So there's that. And the other thing that I like to do is I don't like my taskbar in the middle. So I'm going to go over here to taskbar alignment and put this to the left. I just like things to work the way they used to work, so that's why I do that. And let me go and just back to our thing here. So it's downloading the cumulative update. And actually, while it is doing that, I'm going to go grab the Chrome browser. And I download Chrome. I use Brave now for most of my stuff, but I download Chrome because that's what we do the benchmarks in. And I've been using Chrome to do that forever, so that's why we do that. And it should start to download manually. Of course, there it is, okay. Microsoft doesn't like you using Chrome. Yeah, this fan is definitely not going to, wow. Yeah, this fan is not going to be something for people that don't like fan noise. So fan noise, audible, more distracting is the up and down. Okay, so we got Chrome going. That was easy. And actually, while that's going, we'll get Steam going too. So we'll do a little install of Steam. There are 23 million people online with Steam right now. How about that? All right, so let's run Steam. Get that going. And Chris will definitely be interested to see Linux compatibility on this one. Yeah, I would imagine it will be very compatible. And one of the things that is nice about having those two hard drive options is that you could put Linux on one drive and Windows on the other, right? It's a lot cleaner for dual booting. All right, so I'm going to log into my Steam account now while we're doing the other update. And oops. And I got to do my two-factor on this thing. And hit there, and we are going to finish. All right. So that is done. And the other thing I need to do, just give me 1 second here. Just waiting on that update to finish up, and then we'll continue onward. Just got to check something real quick here, folks. Okay. think we are almost good to go here. So I got to find my drive that I have my games on. So give me 1 second on that. GX, I didn't even know you could do it. No, this is actually through my vMix system, so that's why that does that. That's how I do the chat stuff. And we're going to let that update finish installing. We'll do a reboot, and then we can start benchmarking things a little bit. I'll probably install the drivers for the AMD stuff too once this is finished up. And bear with me for 1 second. I'm just going to go grab something to wet my whistle here. Okay. Probably shouldn't put the drink so close to this here. All right, we'll let this finish up. Amazon customer writes on the chat that this is boring. Well, I am sorry you're bored, but this is what the work entails. So we're going to let this update finish, and then it'll be less boring. And Matthew uses 99. Yeah, I've used that also. But you know what I found is that there's only like 2 things that I use that are available on it. And they charge a lot more for their custom version. So I've kind of avoided that. All right, almost done. 69%. But that fan is definitely cooking on this thing. AD Brown says, great content. Thank you. And Tech Time says, it's not boring here. Yeah, this is what takes time. I mean, this is what the experience is going to be like if you buy this, because you have to go through all this updating before you can get into it. The good news is, remember when we looked at that HP Stream laptop? It took me like 8 hours of updating to get it like into at a point where I could actually use it. So this one is faring much better. It's got more cores and it's faster. Firemaster says, can it run GTA 5? It likely can. I have it. I'm pretty sure I have GTA 5 on here. We'll test Red Dead Redemption 2 also. Tech 360 is, I think, an 8-core chip in that small a form factor is pretty amazing to me. It is pretty amazing, isn't it? Especially at the level that it can perform at. And don't forget, this is the same chip you would find in a laptop, right? So, you know, they've really gotten these things shrunken down. And a lot of what, you know, what's nice about these Ryzen chips is that they have really good graphics in addition to CPU performance. And this is something that I think would be really useful even as like a server. You know, it doesn't have 2 Ethernet jacks, so it's probably not going to fare well as a, you know, as a router if you're going to do pfSense or something. But it does have, you know, a good amount of resources, both in RAM with the 32 gigs it comes with and the processor on board. almost there. It's stuck at like 69%, so we'll have to see where this ends up. Waldeck is here. Hello there. Firemaster wants to know, what's the maximum FPS on gaming? I don't know yet. It's going to depend on the game. You know, this is, it'll play games, but you know what? For what this costs, I think a little bit more, you can get a gaming laptop with a GPU that'll do better. So this is going to be one of those things like, wow, it can play these games, but from a price perspective, it's a little different. So, you know, we'll definitely be running games on it, but I don't know if if games are something that I would buy this for, especially at the price that it's at. But if you're in the market for a general purpose computer, this would be like, so this is how I would equate this. If you were looking at an M1 MacBook versus a Mac Mini with the M1. It's whether or not you want the desktop or not. And the desktop form factor allows for better cooling, so you get more out of that processor versus a laptop. So, you know, I think a lot of the AAA titles won't run well. I mean, you'll get 30, I predict we'll get about 30-ish frames per second out of Red Dead Redemption 2 at lowest settings, 1080p. But you're not going to, you know, to Zoran's point here, I think if you are intending to play games and don't have a lot of money to spend, the Xbox One S is a far better value than this will be. And it'll cost a lot less. All right, we're going to do our restart. And then I think we should be ready to go. I'm not going to run that other update. That one's not required yet. So we'll get going there. David Langley likes the pace. And I'm glad you do. Yes, the pace on this one is a little quicker because this thing is updating faster than the last one we looked at. Wow, FN really kicks on there. All right, we're almost back up here. Okay. %94 there. 100% there. Okay. And, oops, let me just log into my account here. All right, we are up. So now let's go and grab some drivers from AMD real quick, just to get the most current set. And I'm just going to go with like their drivers and support. And I'm just going to do their auto detector thing here so we can save time. So we'll grab that. Yeah, that fan is just like constantly. And I get why it's doing it. You want, you know, yeah, it continually goes up and down. So I think that's going to be something that might annoy people. It's just not necessarily the fan noise itself, but the fact that it's constantly changing its velocity. All right, we're getting there. Almost there. Okay. Radeon Graphics, we'll install the upgrade there. And we'll click Install here. So here's something interesting about the overclocking. Precision Boost Overdrive uses your, oh, it just went through there. But it was talking about that issue that somebody raised earlier. All right, so we're getting to all this AMD stuff here. Here it is. Use your motherboard's robust design to boost clock speeds higher and longer. It lets you overclock at the touch of a button. But I guess it was doing this without the user's permission. Was that the issue? That could be. All right, we're almost there. It's a pretty beefy set of drivers here. It's going to take about, wow, it says like 7 minutes? What is it installing? It might go a little quicker once it gets cooking here. And just give me a second here. I'm multitasking on something else here real quick. Almost there. Okay, looks like the driver's installing. The AMD thing, I don't remember being that robust, but I guess it is. All right. And we are there. Okay, installation is complete. And you know what that means? We can run a benchmark on this sucker now. So give me 1 second here. Send that off. Okay, so we're going to restart because it wants a restart. And then we'll be good to go. Amda Brown says you need to run fdisk from the command prompt and select yes at and the prompt and 3 at the prompt and 1 at the next one. For oh, I have to run fdisk on this one? That's going to erase my partition, wouldn't it? All right. are rebooting. All right, so we are there. So let me just log back in. And then I think we'll start with the benchmark, and then we'll go on from there. So we're going to run the 3D Mark Wildlife and Time Spy benchmarks. And I always like to start there because if there's a problem with a configuration, we're going to see it on those benchmarks. So visually, there's not as much to look at, but there's a method to my madness. So we're going to go load up Steam here real quick. McAfee, yeah, there's no McAfee antivirus on this one, so you're good. And yeah, this is it. You're in a special category of human if you watch people install drivers for fun. I am with you there. Okay, so we're going to go and connect my hard drive now that I have. So I have this little PNY drive. And what I love about Steam is that you can make all of your games portable. You just install them on an external drive, and you don't have to download them over and over again. At least for me, it's helpful because I review a ton of computers, right? We review at least one computer a week, if not more. So having the ability to very quickly add your games to the library without having to re-download everything. What will happen from time to time is that it will update a few of those games and stuff, but I think I got it. Let's take a look and make sure. Yep, there they are. So we're all set. And actually, this all updated the last time we did this, so we have all those updates installed. And we're going to go over to 3D Mark here. And we'll have to install like the Microsoft whatever, but it doesn't take that long. And then we can get the benchmarks going. Logan, thank you for the follow. And I am on Tech. Thank you for the membership join there. Much appreciated. Tech Time with Eric says, if all goes well today, I will finally have my electric. Oh, wow. So it looks like Eric has been working on converting his S10 to electric. That is cool. I know a bunch of guys, I think most of them are still around here. There was a local car club prior to electric vehicles being available to purchase. This guy I know actually converted his Ranger pickup truck to be electric, and it ran off of lead acid batteries because there wasn't any real option for lithium ions at that point. The Grim Panda wants to know, has Plex become better? No. Nope, it still doesn't support AMD processors for hardware transcoding. You know, I might do that, Jolt Dude, because it's not hard. You just have to point Steam at it. They recently changed how you do it, but it's still pretty much the same. All right, so we're going to hit run here on Time Spy. And we'll do Time Spy first, and then we'll do the other one. And I'm betting the fan is going to go bonkers when this is done here. All right, here we go. Now this is going to run as it goes. You're going to see the frame rate not be spectacular, but that's by design because the benchmark is really, it pushes all hardware, including even like the top end gaming laptops. So this actually is running better than I expected, to be honest with you. We'll find out when we get to the end of the test, but it's actually doing pretty good here. So even though it looks like it is not running anywhere near a full frame rate, believe it or not, this is actually good performance for something without a discrete GPU. And I have tested, I'm pretty sure I have, other versions of this chip on laptops, so it'll be interesting to compare that. And we'll see that when we get through the end of the test here. And we'll connect my Xbox controller over Bluetooth also, so we'll be able to get a good demo out of this thing. By the way, they got a $70 coupon on this thing. So it's $749 minus 70, so it's $679. It's still pricey. But I think it'll run you less than a laptop would with that same configuration, although of course you don't get a screen or a keyboard with it. It doesn't come with the keyboard, so you gotta have the keyboard in order for this to work. Ed Horn is here. Hello there. And I am on Texas. Why does it look like it's running in super speed? I think it's actually, it might be, I don't know how it outputs its display. It might be skipping frames to keep up. I'm not sure how it measures it. This part's the demo, and what they do is they run the demo first, and the demo basically gets your computer heated up so that if there's thermal issues, they'll pop up when the tests run. So what you saw was kind of the warm-up, and now the actual benchmarking begins. And so this will run slower than the demo did. And Amda Brown has a good point here about relying on Bluetooth keyboards. Yeah, you know what's interesting? So this one is Bluetooth, but it also uses a dongle. The dongle is plugged in on the back, and it stores itself on the top here in the little holder. So I found with this keyboard, because it has the dongle, it works a lot more like a normal keyboard would because the keyboard pairs with the dongle. So there's no like Bluetooth intermediary that you'd have to wait for loading first. But you're right, if you are using Bluetooth, you'll never get into the get into it. And Zoran says in 5 years, yeah, you're right. And of course, they'll push the benchmarks forward, and then it'll still run slow. So we'll see what happens here. But this is running right now. We're getting about 8.5 frames per second, which does not sound good, but it's actually good for what it is. All right, so we're going to let that roll out here. Ugh. Yeah, so you can see it's going to about 5 frames per second here. But again, that's not bad. If you were running this on like the equivalent Intel mini PC from a year or two ago, you'd be probably running at 1/3 of this speed, believe it or not. So it's actually kind of working as expected here. But we will see. All right, now this is the kind of like the physics part of this test, which works the CPU a lot more. And this one will do pretty well when we look at the score because we've got 8 cores on this processor. So this is the test that kind of works the CPU a little bit more than the other ones did. Now, if you go to Lon.TV/benchmarks, you can get a better feel for that. That's my my benchmark spreadsheet. If I can continue talking here. I'm not recording any videos today, so I lose the ability to speak properly. It's a really rainy day today. I've been like super low energy. And it's been a busy week so far, so I've been a little tired today. Okay, so here we have the end result. So the score is 1375, and if you go to lon.tv/benchmarks, and you go to the Time Spy tab on the bottom, this one is coming in. I'm just trying to see if I've got another 4800U. Yeah, so this one actually, we've looked at a couple of 4800U based devices, actually only one. And by the way, the one we looked at was the Asus PN50, which was also a mini PC. Yeah, it was. And this one came in a little better than that one did. And I have also a few, so I have the HP Pavilion Aero 13, which was a laptop. It did better than that one. That one had a 5800U. So this one is performing pretty well, actually. It's performing better than any of the Ryzen, most of, I should say, the Ryzen laptops I've looked at. Yeah. Yep. So I'm pretty pleased with this score. So I'm just going to record this real quick. Beelink Sir 4. Ryzen 4800U. And our scores here are 1,375. I'm just going to put this in the right position here on my spreadsheet. And if you go to lon.tv/benchmarks, you can see me filling this in right now. It's a Google spreadsheet that I keep. And I just want to get the, the frame rate levels here. So we had 8.06 FPS. We had 6.81 FPS on the second test, and the final test, which really hits the CPU, is around 20 frames per second. And that's because we have an 8-core processor in this little guy. So that is pretty good. And if you're curious as to the temperature, at the high point, it was running at about 76 Celsius at the high mark. And then it kind of throttled down a little bit. You can see, we'll see how it does on the stress test, which we'll run later. But that was the temperature run on that. Okay, so now we're going to do the wildlife benchmark. I'm not concerned about its performance. It seems to be doing fine here. But this is a neat test because this runs cross-platform. So we can compare this device to Apple devices, for example, and Android phones and NVIDIA Shields and all that kind of stuff. So let me go and pull up, and that's also on my benchmark sheet here. So this is a new one that I've been running more often just because it's good to see what the baselines are for certain processors. And where did it go on my list here? Time Spy, Slingshot, Wildlife. Here we go. Okay, so the score to beat on this one is 7,153. And this test is rendering off screen, and that's how I run this test on everything. So what it's doing is it's actually rendering one of those demos that we saw earlier, but it does so without writing it out to the display. So you get a real apples to apples across all these different devices, or an apple to a Beelink in this instance. And I Am on Tech says even, yeah, so you're not going to beat a discrete GPU with an AMD APU. But what's been so remarkable about these chips is that they perform as well as they do without it. And what happened here is that AMD really drove Intel to improve the graphical performance of their processors because they were light years ahead for a while. And that is a big deal, I think, in the industry, in that they really drove better graphical performance. Because for a long time, you couldn't even think of running a game on an Intel or laptop. Like, you just wouldn't unless it had a GPU. And with these AMD chips, you can. And so that makes a big difference. All right, so this one came in at 7,644, which is better than most of the other ones we've looked at. It's definitely topping everything out. And my frames per second are 45.78. And I'm going to run the other one. There's two versions of this test. There's one that runs at a higher resolution. So I do want to run that one real quick. But just as a point of comparison, so the MacBook, the iPad Air that we reviewed a few weeks ago with the Apple M1 processor, no fan, scored 18,325. Basically, it had double the frame rate as this AMD chip with far less power on a fanless tablet. So it just gives you an idea of where the M1 is on this kind of stuff versus an AMD, Ryzen, or Intel chip. Is the efficiency level of some of these Apple ARM chips is ridiculous. But the library of software is not there. So it's, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. And we're just going to run the extreme version just because I like to do this one now and everything too. What's good is that this builds up a database for me of all sorts of different processors and how they perform versus others. So we'll run this, and then next I think we'll try to get Red Dead Redemption 2 going on it and see how that does. Yeah, that fan is cranking away. And like I said, the fan noise is audible, and it's not so much that you hear it, it's that it continually goes up and down. And I can see that for people that really don't like fan noise, that's going to bother them, I think. And I did just get in, JCaz, I got to call him and see if he can bring it over. We did just get in a 12th generation Intel laptop from Lenovo on loan, so we're going to have a review of that soon. All right, same test, by the way, but this is a higher resolution version of it. And Zoran says, yeah, I would imagine Apple would want to do that, right? Because the Apple Arcade service, we did a live stream the other day on that. It's just lacking right now. It just doesn't have the level of, they're mobile games, right? It doesn't have the same cachet of a console kind of game. And meanwhile, like, you look at the Apple M1, even in its let alone the Max and the Ultra or whatever they call it, like it's so much more powerful than even like the Series S, right? Like, you could have a really cool console based on that would cost roughly about the same as the other ones. And if you think about it, Apple has enough supply to make all these iPads. They could probably make a game console if they wanted to. But it would require a lot of development because it's a totally different architecture than what you would see. I think where, like if you look at the PlayStation and the Xbox and the PC, if you were doing, even if your game engine is written in assembly, it's writing for x64 code, right? But if you're doing Apple M1, you've got a large amount of code that you have to, especially assembly code, that you'd have to redo. unless they port the engines over, which they probably have. All right, so this test, we got 2189, and the frame rate was 13.11 FPS. Now on the iPad Air, we got, again, double what we got here. And the iPhone 13 Pro actually got pretty much the same score as this did. So my phone, and granted this is not a one-to-one, right? But my phone tested better than this computer did. But you can't say that the phone is faster because it's not going to be faster on everything. It's faster on the things that the M1 or the Apple ARM chips are good at. All right, so we got that done. What I think I'm going to do now is let's get my controller linked up here. And we will pair this up. So the question earlier was, does this have Bluetooth? It sure does. So we're going to go into the Bluetooth settings. And we're going to add my controller. And go to Bluetooth here. And there's our Xbox controller. And we're good to go. All right, so now we got the controller hooked up. And I'm going to turn the screen resolution down to 1080p. And the reason why I'm going to do that is a couple of reasons. Granted, you can do this in the game, but I found with some games they like to have, Red Dead Redemption in particular has been really particular about this. So we're going to run this. There's no way you'd be able to run Red Dead at 4K on this thing. So we're going to run it at 1080p. And I believe my children just got home. I hear footsteps. All right, we're going to select English, continue, continue. So, you know, it's obviously there's still some things that have to get done when you run the game off of an external drive, but not a lot of things. But I would say, to the point earlier, that if you were running Red Dead Redemption 2 on this computer versus an Xbox Series S, the Series S will run it better, for sure. All right, we're going to hit yes here. And now it's installing some additional prereqs. But this is obviously not anywhere nearly as big. I think the game itself is like 100 gigabytes or something. So all right, we are getting there. And we have a save game like just ready to go, so it drops us right into the open world, if you will. And we will adjust the settings down to the lowest settings for this. And this game is like the one that really pushes of the ones that I test, like this one is the one that really pushes things the most. But I'm pretty confident it's going to work fine. And you see right now it's in a window, so we've got to wait for it to load up here to get everything going. What I found with Red Dead Redemption 2 in particular is that if you turn the game down to 1080p but you're at a 4K resolution, it runs in a window. It doesn't change the screen resolution, at least on Windows 11. And this issue of scaling and screen resolutions has been a problem on these Windows computers from the moment these high DPI displays came out, and this is no different. So we usually have to jump through some hoops here to get the settings right. So we will do that real quick. But it feels pretty good. It feels, you know, obviously it's benchmarking faster than a comparably equipped Ryzen laptop would come. And the reason for that is because you have better cooling in a form factor like this. You're not dealing with, you know, a case that's less than an inch thick. You've got all this thickness, which allows for all that airflow to go in and out here. So that's why it does so well. So we're going to go to 1920 by 1080 full screen. And we're going to adjust down to the lowest graphical settings. And we're going to apply those changes. And now it should go full screen. And we'll hit yes here. And I think we're, oh, it's still at 720p. Hang on a second. See, this is what happens a lot of times with this. All right, 1920 by 1080, apply changes. Let's see if it stays there this time. Okay. All right, so there we go. 1080p, low settings, we're good to go. All right, so now I'm going to pull up the Steam in-game frames per second counter. I'm pretty sure this works now. It may not be working on this one. We'll see. Yeah, there it is. Okay, good. All right, so now we're going to jump back out, and we're going to go start the game. And what I'm going to do, hopefully this doesn't crash my system again. I'm pushing my luck here. I'm going to add in the don't crash, don't crash, don't crash. Good. All right, so we can get some actual footage of it recorded for my review that I might shoot tomorrow. Can it play 8K games? No. It can play an 8K game if you turn the resolution down. All right, so we're going to do a little recording here. So this is 1080p lowest settings, and we are at 25 FPS. I'm just going to double check the settings before, oop, I got bit by a snake. I've been poisoned. This will cause your health core to drain. Eat a health herb such as ginseng. I'm going to die. So yeah, we're about where we usually are with these AMD chips. We're in the upper 20s. It's hitting 30 right about now. It's like 29, 28. So he's in bad shape. So it's where I would expect it to be. And we've seen this level of performance on the Ryzen laptops that we reviewed with these same settings. But again, we're at super, like the lowest possible settings. We're at 1080p. But it runs, and it's playable. And this is not streaming. Nope, this is running native on the hardware. So what you're seeing here is the game actually running. Are you allowed to can you carjack in this game? Let's see as we have more detail here. They really, you got to give these folks credit. They really know how to build a world, don't they? If all this life and like, you know, the GTA 5 stuff is amazing too. Yeah, so as we're getting closer to this horse and buggy, it's around 25. So, you know, it's about 25 to 30 frames per second. But it is playable. So, you know. So that should give you an idea. We'll run a couple more here. And I think the Series S comes in probably with better fidelity, graphical fidelity, and you know, we'll do, you know, about, so you get higher frame rate with the same resolution and better detail on the Series S. You know, so I think from the standpoint of, I thought I had No Man's Sky on here. I'm almost positive I had installed it. Here, let's try Doom Eternal. And my cloud save is not syncing here, so retry sync. Let's get that to, there it goes. Where is No Man's Sky? I'm almost positive it's on this thing. We're going to re-download it. How much space do I have on that drive? I have I've got 40 gigs free. Most of it is Red Dead Redemption 2 on that drive. But I'm going to just reinstall. Oh, it's on. It's on here. So why is it not showing up on my list of installed games? That is weird. Installed locally. Okay. Retry sync on that one. There we go. All right, so it's going to download that update or the save game. But I've had issues getting Doom Eternal to run on this hardware. Well, let's try it again here and see what happens. And we're going to turn down the resolution here, like we did on the other one. Again, you got to really look at this realistically as far as what it can do, but it can run a lot of this stuff. Let me show. Yeah, we do get snakes around here, but most of the snakes we have are not too dangerous. We get the copperheads are the worst snakes that we'll run into. But generally, we have like gardener snakes is what we get here. All right, so let me go over to the settings screen. I guess it's this thing here. And game, weapon, where's the UI video? So right now it is at, oh, it's at 4K right now. So we're going to dial that one back a bit. It's not letting me do that though. Let's see. Huh, it's like stuck at, all right, hang on a second. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to close this out real quick. I just want to make sure. So my video capture device gets a little flaky. And it's at this weird, there we go, 1920 by 1080, full screen, monitor default, vertical sync is off. And let's go to all of the settings here. We're going to turn the overall quality down to low and apply changes. Okay. All right, so we're just going to go run into campaign mode here. Continue game. And bear with me for 1 second. We're going to bring back my capture. There we go. And Mark had copperheads in Rhode Island, but ribbon snakes were more common. I don't think I've ever seen one of those. So Zoran, I'm surprised you can't get Red Dead Redemption 2 to run with the 950M. I would imagine it would do that. All right, so let's see what happens here. It looks like it's loaded. And wow, actually it looks pretty good. Let me switch over here, do a little recording here. I'm playing on my ThinkPad controller. So it's running at about, so we're again, lowest settings 1080p. We're like 45-ish here. And I'm getting like destroyed here by these guys. Yeah, so it's about 45-ish to see. It's 60 there, but there's not a lot going on, right? I got low health here. Yeah, so I'm going to put this one at around 45 frames per second. it'll go higher. You see how it dipped down over there? So like when you've got a lot of activity on screen, that's going to be where it gets eaten up quite a bit. But again, not bad for a mini PC. All right, so Doom Eternal, 45-ish. It's all an average, right? I mean, it's about what you would expect. And by the way, this is about the extent of the game playing that I do lately. It's the only time. The irony of being a dad of small children is that and running a YouTube channel for a living is that the only opportunity I get to play games is when I am working. Isn't that weird? But I think that's kind of the fun part about this job. Okay, so we're going to exit to the desktop here, and the next one we're going to do, one last one, is we're going to load up No Man's Sky. And this is one of my favorite games. And we'll just do the conditions here. And I don't have Cyberpunk, unfortunately, but I did pin the specs in the chat window. So you can pull down that pin thing and you can see what it's got. It's got 32 gigs of RAM. And low spec tech, yeah, this would be a very good emulation box for sure. I'll try. What's the PS2 emulator everybody's running these days? Maybe we'll try that. And we'll load this up. Yeah, that fan, though, is cooking on this thing. But it's holding up. And this game is a good one to test because it is very demanding in a different way because the game is procedurally generated, so no two planets are alike in this game, so there's a lot of things that just get generated per the algorithm that impact performance in weird and amazing ways. And this is shared memory on these, so it's running off of the internal RAM. It is dual channel though, and it's got a lot of it, so that helps. And PCS X2 is still the gold standard. Are there any special plugins that people use? Like what? Give me some configuration considerations, but we'll try that out. And I get this question a lot on these, and we've answered, and I should probably pin this somewhere. It is not good for a Plex server because it doesn't support hardware transcoding. I need to make note of that. So this is going to be a server, be great as a server. You got 8 cores. That's a lot for a mini PC. And they're good cores. They're not like crappy cores. You got good quality Ryzen cores. So it will do well for that kind of stuff. This might do well with my software-defined radio stuff that I've been messing around with, too. All right, here we are. We're on the planet. And, oh, it looks like, there it goes. Okay, it's rendering in. Ooh, see what I mean about this game? It's like, but granted, the settings are cranked up right now, so that's probably why we're seeing that. So let's go and adjust some of those settings down. So yeah, we are, let me go to the graphics settings here. Graphics options, because it is dogging, but I think we've got we've got the settings on ultra. So we're going to go down to the standard preset, which is going to be much more forgiving. We probably have to reboot the game. Let's see. Yep. Restart required for settings to take effect. Well, we will do that. Because on my computer upstairs, I can crank it out. I got it running at 4K on my TV up there, which looks awesome. And it also works. This is not a VR machine by any stretch, but this game plays in VR, which is amazing. if you've got the hardware, because it gives you a real, like you get this amazing perspective that you don't get in the traditional mode, which is pretty cool. All right, so we'll load this up here. And now we'll run it at a lower resolution. And Andrew asked a good question here. What would this be matched against from a Intel perspective? I would say probably the 10th generation i7s with the Iris graphics would probably line up. The 11th gen Intel chips actually perform better graphically, believe it or not, than this particular Ryzen one does. But the new Ryzen chips, the ones that are on the way, are going to be better than the Intel. It's a constant. It's great. I mean, they're battling it out, and we are benefiting as consumers from that. So I would say like a 10th generation i7. The 11th generation i7 with the Iris graphics will do a little better. And just need the PS2 BIOS. I've got one of those, so we will try that out next. I like to do 3 games and an emulator on these things, so there's a good amount of comparables. All right, there we go. Yeah, so this is about where I would expect it to be. So let me get my capture up again. And then after the emulator, I got to run. Okay, so let's do some recording here. So this is running at about, it's about 30 frames per second. And like I said, this game is going to vary quite a bit based on what you're doing in it. And we'll get in the spaceship. And there's a wall of flame coming, so we need to get the heck out of Dodge here. So now it's in the 30 frames per second territory at this point. And the little lag hits you're seeing there are from disk access. And we'll do so we're going to go land on this other planet. And let that kind of run its course here. Yeah, this is about, right now we're at, so you usually do better in the space scenes, so we're at about 35-ish frames per second right now. It's when you get into the planets where things slow down, just because there's a lot more to render on screen. But this is about where I would expect it to go. And as we get a little closer to this planet, we're 10 seconds away, I'm going to start recording again. I like to do, with this game, I like to record the space scene and then the transition to the planet. Now, if you're in VR, this is like I said, it's just so fun in VR because you got that whole perspective. And what we'll do is we'll just settle her down here and land on the planet as everything renders in. And it looks like we're coming into a storm here on the planet. Oh yeah, it's pretty rough right now. Yeah, it's doing about 20 at the moment. And I'm not sure what the heck's going on here. This is like a really awful planet. There we go. The ground is visible. All right, so we'll stop here and we'll just land the ship and get out. Yeah, it's a pretty nasty storm going on right now. All right, well, I got 2 sets of B-roll on that one. So yeah, so No Man's Sky is about 30 FPS on the planet. Okay, so there we go. All right, so we're going to do one last thing before I got to run. We'll do a little PlayStation 2. I haven't tested a PlayStation 2 thing in a while. So we'll do that, and then we'll jet. And I'm still at 1080p just to be safe here. And I'm just going to connect to my NAS device first and grab some files. And let's go to my emulators and So I'll copy over Burnout 3. I have Ace Combat 5 also. But let's just do Burnout 3 for now because it's a big file. And I'll copy over the PS2 BIOS here real quick. And then we need to find PCSX2. All right, it'll allow the cookies. Let's download this sucker. I hate this, by the way. These ads that trick people into clicking on something, right? I don't have the ad blocker installed on this one. It's only a 32-bit app still, huh? How about that? All right, and now I got to download 7-zip because I don't have that on here. Get that going real quick. Get the 64-bit version of that one. But you can see how quick this computer is. I mean, it's performing like I would expect a decent Ryzen machine to perform, so that's a good thing. And we got a lot of RAM. We got 32 gigs of RAM on this sucker, so that's helpful too. Yeah, 7-zip hadn't yet installed the helper. There we go. I'm still struggling with Windows 11, in case it's not apparent. All right, so I'm just going to move these files. I'll just leave them there for now. Okay, so let's go boot this up, PCSX2. And go to next. I guess I'm going to leave everything as is, right? I'm just going to go with the basics. And I'm going to hang on, let me just go put these BIOS things in their folder. And then we'll get that going. Okay. There we go. I got a Japanese console. That should be fine. Okay. We have initialized. I'm going to select an ISO. Well, so far it's running at full speed. I'll get you a closer view of this here. And I am running this, again, with default settings. So I'm sure a lot of you will have suggestions on how to make it better. And I'll give a better look here once we pop in. And I'm also going to turn the volume down, but I'm going to pull the sound up because I just want to make sure the sound is working properly. Well, actually, I can't use the sound because it's all copyrighted. All right, let's get this going here and see. I don't know if my controller is mapped. Let's see. Oh, it is mapped. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to make a new profile. New profile. Done. Save my profile. Profile 1, yes. So far we are running at 100% speed. So that's a good sign. And again, we are, we're not in the game yet, of course, but we are just doing our initial setup here. I'm just going to do a single event. I love the road rage. Let's do the road rage. this is like you have to sit through all this stuff because she's going to tell you what the rules of the road are.
But you're not going to win races unless you take risks.
So we'll let that finish up here. At least the sound sounds like it's holding up.
Using boost gives your vehicle a speed boost. And you can use boost at any time to keep you in the heart of the action.
Yeah, it seems like it's holding up pretty well here. So let's see what happens here once we get through this. Yeah, they don't let you skip these things. This is the beginning of the mandatory tutorial. Mark Smith wants to know, can you downgrade Windows 11 to 10? I don't think you can on this because it comes with Windows 11 pre-installed. I guess you could install Windows 10 instead, but I don't know if the license will go down. I think it only goes up. And CF wants to know, is there a recommended mini PC that can run uncompressed 4K video files reliably? As far as playing them back, I would say this one could do it. Intel does a pretty good job on their stuff too. Intel's got really good built-in video encoding and decoding. So that's one area where I think you get a little bit more out of it. Okay. Geez, they don't let up on this like tutorial thing. And I guess you want everyone to know like all the things you can do, but
you can steer your wreck. How cool is that?
Yeah, this is a fun game. The one that came after this was Burnout Revenge. I think that's the one that I like the best. But Burnout 3 was a real solid offering. I wish they would just make a new version of this, because this game was just the total package. Both this one and the one that came after it. Because the one they did with the open world, I could never get into it. It's too open. Like I like everything to be contained in one area. Because that tightness of the tracks, I think, make it really a lot of fun. Yeah, so I'm getting the same issues here that I get with this game when I run it on other machines with this version of the emulator, is that we should be seeing daylight in the sky. The good news is that it's running at full speed, but the glitches that this game has persist. And I don't know if anyone knows how to fix this with Burnout 3 on PCSX2. It's probably a setting in one of the plugins that it uses, but I mean, it runs great. I mean, it's running 100% here, so 60 frames per second. So that's great. No issues there, but the graphic glitches are an issue. Oops. But it does seem to run. I'm just going to let this run out a little bit longer just so I have some B-roll for later. But yeah, it's nice. It's running nice and smooth on here. It's full speed. It's just that graphical issue is the big problem here. How much do I have? I have 1:14. That should be good enough. So I don't know if anyone has a solution to that issue, but that's night mode, dark mode, exactly. Oh, for a Plex server. So I would look at a more current generation Intel chip. And I recently, if you look at my latest video, I've got a link to a chart that'll help you, because there's a bunch of different ways that 4K video is encoded these days. So you have some that are 10-bit, some 12. It gets really complex. So, and poor Chris Allegretta trying to do his best to moderate here. Thank you for your efforts, though, even with translating from other languages. Let me see if I can coax this. I've never been able to figure out this graphical issue with this, by the way, so I will leave it there. But what I could do, yeah, we'll bring over Ace Combat, because I have that on the server. I can just pull that over real quick, and we can try that real quick. And then I got to go. So PS2, Ace Combat 5. This is Ace Combat 5. So we'll see how that does. It's going to take a second for it to come over. All right. Yeah, the Ethernet seems to be working fine too, unlike that other one that we looked at. All right, we're almost there. Logan and Albert Decker, thank you for the follows on Amazon. Much appreciated. Okay, we are almost there. And by the way, I will be doing a review of this, so if you see this 4-hour, well, if you got to this point, if you see this 2-hour live stream, we have a much more condensed version coming up shortly. All right, so let's go back into PCSX2 here, and we'll load up the other game. Oops, wrong one. I don't want to do this one again. Hang on. I'm going to go change the ISO selector, browse, do this one, swap disk, reset. There we go. I have to say, emulator authors are magicians. There's no other way to put it. Because I could never, ever even fathom coding something like this. All right, we're almost there. Another unskippable, oops. Let's go to arcade. No, arcade. We're going to do arcade. Press start button. The button mapping is always confusing. Start arcade mode. Start. All right, here we go. Okay, we're going to do arcade mode. Do my plane. I don't care, just get me in the air. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, the Linux test. You know, I'll do that. Just for you, I will do that, Chris Allegretta, before I go. Okay. Here we go. So we've got, I'm going to go down towards the ground here so that we get a better view. This is running great. You know, it's funny, we take for granted how far graphics have come. Like, this would have been amazing at its time, right? I'm such a good pilot, I don't even need to look at my thing there. Okay, good. So we got that done. All right, so let's do the Linux thing real quick, and then I got to run. So we're going to shut her down, and I've got a different drive for the Linux stuff. So we're going to do that, and we're going to turn her off. So shut down. Okay, so now I got to find the disk that my Linux is stored on, which I think I moved back over. Michael Kidd said, the only frustration of Beelink is their 12-volt power input. Not very tolerant of a voltage drift. And my man on Linux here, Roman, says that the new version of Ubuntu is dropping soon. So I'm going to have to update my install shortly. But we are going to boot up Ubuntu, the current version. And then we're going to go, because I got to go to a meeting in a little while. I got dinner to cook. All right, so there we go. So I got the drive in there. This is, delete goes in, and they actually print on the bottom how to get into the BIOS. That's unheard of, right? April 21st is the new Ubuntu. So be on the lookout for that. I will certainly be. Yeah, I'm inching closer to Ubuntu. All right, so we're going to go override over to the Buffalo disk here. So far, so good. Oh, Michael's got a remote observatory. How far away is it? Is it like on your property or is it like far away? That's something I really want to get into also. I have so many things I want to get into, but I need to really, my next goal is to get my ham license. That's my latest thing. Because I've been listening to all sorts of cool radio things. I've made a lot of progress on this software-defined radio. I'm pulling in all sorts of, I've been doing digital decoding of a lot of different stuff. That's been a lot of fun. So the next video, I'm waiting actually for the kit to show up again on Amazon because the video I did, I can tell you for a fact that it cleaned out Amazon's inventory of that SDR radio kit. So I was waiting for it to pop back up again. And then I cleared out the AliExpress one, which they just got stock back in on. But I ordered a second dongle for some things I wanted to try out. And the second dongle took about 2.5, 3 weeks to ship from China. So it's just not a good experience yet. So we're getting there. And Craig is a ham using RTL-STR, as I am using. And I'm working on, so I got a viewer suggested a really good ham radio license course that you can take. It's called, let me see if I can find it. I got to find it again. I have it on my iPad. It's like 25 bucks, but I like the way that it presents the information. And now I don't have it on, it's not on my Mac here. I use it on my iPad. Oh, cool. I got a Discord on your remote observatory. I'll check it out. Okay, Ubuntu this is not looking promising, actually. It's been stuck here for longer than I expected it to be. This is surprising because it should just boot right up. So it could be a whole bunch of reasons. We'll try a different USB port. But it should have booted by now. And the drive is not showing us any activity. So let's power it off here real quick. Sometimes the USB port makes a difference. So we'll try one of the other USB ports. And we'll give that a shot. The dog never comes down here, but the dog hair ends up getting down here. And these are USB 2 ports in the back. The USB 3 ports are on the front. So we will pop this in here. But so far, doesn't look like a plug-and-play kind of solution, but let's give it another go here. And we'll go over to boot. And Chris says, this is why we try it. Yep, that is it. That is it. Let's go boot off the other one here. Oh, so Joe said I should hit the escape key. So let's try that if it hangs for too long. Oh, that's looking more promising, I think. But now it's frozen. But the drive is showing. Yeah, it's locking up. So one thing I will look for is perhaps a BIOS update that might fix this problem. So I will have to investigate this a little bit more because I have to run here. But generally, these things come up a lot quicker. And this is the Beelink Sir 4. And let me see. So it's b-link.com. let's go to support. So my feeling, this is probably an issue of BIOS, a BIOS in need of an update. That's my guess. So I'm going to have to dig through their website and see if I can find the BIOS for this one. But this is, so far, not looking good. Yeah, and it could just be that we have to wait for the new release, which is coming out on April 21st. So maybe we'll have to do, we'll review it, and then we'll come back and see how it does with Linux on the redo. I'll try one more USB port for good measure. What the heck, right? Give it one more shot. We'll try one more. It's performing differently in one port versus the other, so you never know, right? Sometimes, like, I doubt this is going to make a difference, but we'll see what happens. But the good news is on the Windows side, it performed quite well. Although now I've got nothing on my screen here. Let's power. I'm just really upsetting it now, I think. Do not taunt Happy Fun Ball, right? Oh, you know what it is? My drive here. I wonder if the drive has got an issue. Let me go get, I have one more thing I can try. So I have another drive with the same version of Ubuntu on it. And what happened was I installed it on the drive that you see there. I had installed it on there because I had misplaced the one that I have in my hand. But let's try this one, because that drive was blinking even after the computer was off. So I wonder if there was something afoot there. So let's try this one. And this one that I'm plugging in is the same version. Just to rule out a defunct drive here. Let's see what happens here. Otherwise, I think it might need a BIOS update, or we just wait for that. That thing to come down. So let's try this again here. All right, there we go. But the good news is that it does the Windows stuff quite well. So I think that's good. All right, there we go. You know, it may have been the drive. Maybe. I don't know. It's funny how every boot is different, right? Like we haven't had the same. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Ha! A little troubleshooting goes a long way. So I must have to redo that drive. So we'll try Ubuntu here. And then we'll check for all the usual things. All right, so let's take a look and see if it picks up the Wi-Fi. Network, no Wi-Fi. And it's not detecting the Ethernet either. The Bluetooth works though. Let me try the Ethernet again here. There it goes. That was weird. I had to plug it back in again. Okay, so Linux. No Wi-Fi. I got to figure out what Wi-Fi it has. It is a Wi-Fi 6 device, but it wasn't detected as part of the boot up here. Audio, let's try. So I'm going to bring in, I'm going to risk, if this crashes, I will see you all next week or later this week. Don't crash, don't crash, don't crash. Good, okay, so now we're up here. So let me go and see if audio is working here. Yep, audio works. So we got that. Ethernet is working, Wi-Fi is not working. Display settings, I think we are at 4K. Nope, we're at 1080p. All right, hang on, I gotta close out my thing, because if I switch it over to 4K, it's going to crash. Long story. 2160. We're going to go to 60 hertz at 200 and apply. Okay. We're good. All right, let me try. I'm pushing my luck here on my video encoder, but let's bring in the 4K version and see, does it work? It does. Okay. So I'm going to do my usual multi-screen B-roll shot here. So we're going to get LibreOffice Writer up here. Yeah, it runs nice. Nice and quick, as you would expect. And where is, oops. I want to put the spreadsheet on the quick on the taskbar here, whatever they call it in Linux, Ubuntu. And I just want to see if it picked up any proprietary drivers here, and it is searching. Looks nice and sharp though. Looks good. All right, so no additional drivers found. All right, so let's hit the record button here. We'll get some. Oops, let me do it this way. 10. Hang on a second. All right, good. So let me just record. Let me start this way, and then we'll hit record. Pull up the Office Writer. We'll pull up the Calc. We'll pull up Firefox here and get that going. Firefox takes a second to load because it has its like initial whatever thing that it does. So let me redo this, but it does seem to be working. The audio works too, so I think we're in good shape. All right, so let us do one of these deals here. So we'll go visit my YouTube channel. And so it is working over the Ethernet, but the Wi-Fi wasn't detected, and it didn't see it in that proprietary driver section either. But you can swap out the Wi-Fi cards, so I would maybe consider that. I got to look and see what Wi-Fi it has on board. So I'm going to make a note of that. But everything else seems to be good. You know, so if you're looking to run this as like a little Linux server, I think it would do well. You got Ethernet, you got 8 cores, and it seems like pretty zippy. You know, one thing I'm noticing with a lot of the PCs I'm testing lately is that Windows 11 doesn't feel as snappy and responsive and quick as Ubuntu is feeling these days in comparison. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, it looks like it's working pretty nicely here. Let's go to 1, skip the ad. Oops, there we go. What did I do? Oh, the picture-in-picture thing. Hang on, let me just do this again. You know, it's amazing. I'm a YouTube premium subscriber, and it's amazing how awful the experience is on YouTube when you have all these ads that continually pop up. Now, granted, I'm earning a living from those ads, but I really have grown to appreciate YouTube Premium. Yeah, we got the video going here. Everything's working good at 4K. It's looking good. Yep, no issues. Yeah, we are good. Oh, I forgot to hit the record button. Look at me go. All right, let me just do this one more time. All right. Yeah. Good shape. All right, so Linux is good. So yeah, not bad. Not bad. And Red Hornet says he watches those ads. Thank you very much. It pays the bills, so I'm not complaining. But the good news is the YouTube Premium subscribers, I get paid by the minute for when they watch. So there's that. All right, so let's restart back into Windows here. But yeah, I think we're in good shape here. And overall, it's not a bad little machine. The performance is what I expected, which is good. It's a little better than a laptop with the same chip. It comes very well equipped. You've got 32 gigs of RAM on board, so the configuration that they offer is like decked out. Quality components, an Intel NVMe and Crucial memory. So you got that Micron memory, that good stuff there. So it's decent. It is decent. All right. So Angel is in the chat, says, why can't I purchase a $10 gift card? And was told to come here. Well, this is not, unfortunately, I don't work for Amazon, so I cannot help. But I would do a contact customer service in your account setting there, and they should be able to help you with that. All right. So Aaron Bossert, we'll cover this too in the full review, is about what the fan noise is like. It's not bad. The problem I have with the fan isn't so much the noise it makes, it's the fact that it is constantly ramping up and down based on what's happening with the system. So that to me is more distracting than the noise itself, because it doesn't run at a constant rate. It's just, you'll hear it just like going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Patrick Chang just got monetized. Congratulations. Yeah, the ads do pay better these days. But I think if there were more premium subscribers, it would help a little bit. I don't know. All right. Well, I got to run, but let me look up the Wi-Fi that it has on board real quick, and we can get to the bottom of that. And I know I'm going through this in the wrong way, but let's just go. I don't. Everything is so different in Windows 11, but it's the same. If that makes sense. All right. So, device manager, and if we go to network adapters, so. This is a weird Wi-Fi, RZ608. What the, oh, it's a MediaTek. It must be a newer one. It is an 80 megahertz Wi-Fi 6 though, which is good. It's the RZ608. And OnTech did something on it. And it's a jointly developed module with AMD. Interesting. So I bet you that new Ubuntu update will resolve that. But you know what I'm going to do real quick before we go? I know I keep saying I'm going, but I want to, oh, it connected to my Wi-Fi automatically, perfect. I'm going to grab the speed test app, because I'm just curious, because I have an 80 megahertz wide Wi-Fi 6 thing in the ceiling there, and I know that my iPad, which also supports that wide Wi-Fi bandwidth, gets like 700 megabits per second on that. So let's look at that real quick, just to get a feel for that, and then we're going to go. I'm just going to download it. They have an app on the App Store, which I like to use because it doesn't put my IP address on the screen. So let me grab that real quick, and then we'll see what this looks like. So speedtest.net. Yeah, the nice thing about having an internet connection as fast as mine, not to brag, but is that I don't have to do a lot of iPerf testing anymore because my outside connection is so quick. I can max out everything for the most part. And let's let this download. Of course, the Windows Store takes forever to download anything, but we'll let that run out real quick. Thank you for the super chat, Grayson Petty. Much appreciated. And Mark Smith, yes, you can swap it out. So it's standard M2, so you could put in a different Wi-Fi. You could get it like an Intel Wi-Fi that would be compatible. All right, so let us run this real quick and see what we get. So it should be around 600 or 700 megabits per second, because that's what I get on my iPad if it's the same. No, not going as quick as that. Still good. This is the Wi-Fi. So about 330-ish, which leads me to think it's like single channel Wi-Fi versus dual channel or whatever the terminology is. Oh, with that though, my upstream is faster. Huh. 500 and change. Interesting. Yeah. So I think when that update comes down, we should be in good shape. And I'm glad I could be an inspiration, Patrick. I get inspired by people that start and find success. So I am going to be inspired by you too, because it's a high tide in this business raises all the boats, in my opinion. All right. Well, I am going to jet for now, but I'll be back with a review of this probably over the weekend. So be on the lookout for that. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. And Grayson, thank you for your super chat. Thanks to everyone on Amazon who gave me a follow, including Daryl, Alan, and Angie, and Albert, and Logan, and Patrick. So yeah, we had a good productive stream here, and I've got a little bit more to do on this before I'm ready to shoot the review, but we're pretty much in good shape. And Chris Allegretta, thank you for the super chat. Got you in there right before I signed off. So thank you all for your support, and thank you all for watching, because everything helps. So thank you. And Grayson's using YouTube Premium, and that helps too, because that premium accounts on the live streams too. And I'm definitely leaving this time. Honest to goodness. Definitely leaving. See that? The thing is up. So I will catch you all on the next one. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye now.